Good afternoon, guys. We have an enriching panel today, and I'm sure we have a dozen questions for them as well. Would love if everyone can introduce a little bit more about their business and themselves individually.
Hi, I'm Harshal Salot. I'm the co-founder of the Sleep Company. We are a comfort tech brand whose vision is to really step change the way India sleeps and sits. And we've launched our own patented technology called the Smart Grid, which is the biggest material innovation in this space. And it's really revolutionizing how India sleeps. So we are an omni-channel brand now with more than 108 stores across 30 cities in the country.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Abhijit. I do exactly what, opposite to what Harshil does. Harshil gets you to better sleep. I am founder and CEO of Up Coffee. Up Coffee is India's highest rated tech-enabled first grab-and-go coffee company. Before we got founded in 2022 and currently we are 65 stores across 3 cities. What we do is we are your daily coffee partner, just great coffee, right price, wherever you go, wherever we live, play, and have leisure. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Chippy Mehta. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Bombay Shirt Company. We're a 12-year-old brand in the menswear space. Custom-made clothing is what our goal is, our vision is to change the industry, disrupt the industry in some way, and have every man go into made-to-measure clothing and not be into inventory business.
Hi everyone, I'm Lavanya. I head the business of Zivame. Zivame is in the intimate wear needs of women. We are more than a decade-old company. And when he was introducing, we are one of the brands which actually started from e-commerce and actually came to true omni-retail. Today we are present across all channels. We have about 175 stores, and our D2C platform Zivame.com is one of the biggest channel when it comes for women to shop their intimate wear needs. I'm happy to be here sharing our stories with this lovely audience.
Hi, Sahad Dharia, founder and CEO of Soothe Healthcare. We manufacture distributed market personal hygiene products, sanitary pads, Pari, super cute baby diapers and adult diapers. We are a 90% offline company. 70% of our revenue comes from general trade, which is your mom and pop shops, kirana. So we are in 250,000 stores, and 20% modern trade and 10% e-com, Q-com, e-com, and that's the part that's growing rapidly. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Shankar. I'm the Chief Supply Chain Officer at Plum. Plum is India's first vegan beauty brand that started around 10 years back. So 2 months back, we completed our 10th anniversary. So happy to be here to share our insights with you.
I think we have a lovely panel and some really insightful questions coming up. I think D2C particularly has been a buzzword of past few years. But going ahead and moving ahead, we've seen a large transition come into play wherein omni-channel has become a key focus for brands. How do you see this landscape evolving, particularly with the kind of challenges and what kind of situations one has faced purely being D2C alone? I would want your perspective as to how do you see this evolve into a more holistic approach in terms of brand positioning and the kind of experiences you've had wherein you've had to shift from D2C focus alone to also offline. And I'd love if Harshal starts that because he's really pioneered the offline bit.
Yeah, so thanks Pranav for the question. And I think for us, D2C is something which is part of our DNA. And even though we've ventured offline, it is still D2C because these are our own company-owned, company-operated stores. As a brand, we truly believe in elevating customer experience and educating the customers on our technology, on the right products for them. And through that, we really believe that we can create a bond that can stay for a very, very long time. What we've seen as we started from just being a purely online brand to an omni-channel brand is when you venture offline, your AOVs, your customer retention metrics, your ability to upsell and cross-sell to the customer dramatically increases. So although a lot of brands have ventured out offline and they are not complete D2C brands, but for us it's been very different, and 90% of our revenues is D2C, which either comes from our own website or our own stores.
You want to say something about that, Abhijit? I think you've built it from the offline perspective. And what kind of challenges have you faced in this journey when you started?
Well, yeah, see, we are a F&B brand, right? So for me, in F&B, I believe the only way the brand builds cheaper and broader and more relatable when people can look, feel, smell, attach themselves to the brand. So we are a grab-and-go chain by the name of it. That's the way we have built the entire brand for. Uh, Now, where omni-channel comes for us is from the way India behaves or India acts when it comes to convenience, right? So grab and go chain, our idea is that we are located wherever you are, be it your corporate parks, be it your residential complexes. At the same time, you want it delivered at your doorstep. And that is where the omni-channel aspect comes for us. As a pure D2C package brand, we are not in that particular spectrum. But to summarize, our own challenges have been in terms of offline expansion, explaining. First of all, the first challenge was to explain people how coffee of such quality can be at 1/3 the market price, right? It's just because of the way the model is positioned in India. And then finding the right places such that we are not a destination, but rather we are a transit, and that's where the location strategy comes from. So nobody drives 10 kilometers to come to an Up Coffee, but rather we happen to be on your transit zone. So these are the two key factors when we look at building a brand and the challenges that we face when we build it. For omni-channel in terms of digital, it's just been one of the ways to reach out to our guests, aka customers, wherever they are located.
Lovely. I think you've achieved that beautifully. Being a consumer, I can vouch for that and would want to move to Chippy. I think Bombay Shirt Company has led by example in terms of what attention to detail could be in clothing as well, right? So I'd want to understand your perspective, what kind of challenges you've faced in the entire journey of building it from scratch to where you are today.
So I think, unlike my colleagues out here, I think we faced a lot of challenges, to be honest. So we've grown our brand quite slowly and steadily. I think that's a path that we chose to take. We are at about 25 stores now. We actually originally started the company as a online brand only, and slowly but surely realized that custom-made apparel selling online is not as easy as it seems, in spite of the entire D2C revolution in the online space. So our focus, similar to what Sleep Company, as Harshil said, is the offline space. The interesting thing that we see, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues do as well, I know Lavanya doesn't, but is we see our customers actually seeing us, discovering us online. But the actual conversions that happen offline. And our entire goal now is that target is to keep expanding our stores. The challenges that we face are obviously, you are in some way or form changing consumer behavior, because we are trying to get the old world charm of custom tailoring your garments. And in the world today where everybody is remote, everybody wants everything faster and quicker, it's not an easy battle to take on. The reason why we believe that there is potential in our business, and which of course we have investors on our board who also believe the same, and we are seeing that in our traction as well in our stores every time we open a new store, is that there is just so much of a clutter in the men's space if you want to buy a shirt. And typically, and our customers are typically 30 plus, we do not address the Gen Z and the college students, etc. today. A 30 plus male, from what we have seen, wants simplicity in their life. They have a lot of complications. They're probably married, kids, responsibilities, work, parents to take care of. They do not necessarily want to spend hours trying on different brands and clothes as they keep changing their fits. So what we see is a very, very high repeat rate, a very high loyal customer base, where once they try us, they're typically a customer for life. And I think, as most of my colleagues again over here will agree, that getting a customer into the door is not very cheap. It costs a lot of money, and you don't necessarily make money in your first order. And that does not really build a sustainable business if you do not have a high repeat clientele. And that's what we go for, is that lifetime value of a consumer. And as we build out the offline space, I think today our challenge, more than really changing consumer behavior, because I think we have been able to do that quite successfully every time, every year goes around, but is to get good real estate. I think today with the shortage of good real estate, distributing your brand and making your brand as aware as, let's say today as Harshal has almost 108, 110 stores. I think for us that's been the biggest challenge, getting the right locations to be able to market our brand. But we are at 25 stores. We would like to be at about 100 stores in the next few years. Our immediate goal is to open in both malls and high street locations, as well as, of course, have that feed into our online platform, which is right now only D2C. We do not sell through any marketplace as of today.
Chippy, adding to that, I would want some light on the fact that do you believe in the era of mass production of clothing and fabrics, consumer attention to craftsmanship is increasing and there's a certain value it is able to uphold?
Yeah, I don't know if I understood your question correctly, but absolutely. I think as a man, goes deeper into his career, like I said, he appreciates the finer things over time, right? So the mass production is what we are seeing today, where brands are actually closed. There are more brands closing than opening, is because of the whole inventory pileup. And businesses are not able to sustain that because you're not able to predict what is going to sell and what isn't. So from a business point of view, I think that's the best way to grow. From a consumer point of view, just as if I understood your question correctly, is that customers want to feel special, right? Today, even in Uber, today you get an Uber, X, or you're still being told that, hey, listen, these are your favorite places, right? Netflix also suggests that, hey, based on your last action drama, these are the things that you would probably like. And what's showing up on my Netflix is very different from what's showing up on yours. And, wherever you look, right, whether it's Swiggy, whether it's Airbnb, all the brands that have disrupted their spaces they've not necessarily disrupted, right? They've basically added to what the consumer wanted. So the black and yellow taxis will always exist, hotels will always exist, restaurants will always exist, but all the companies like these that are coming about is the way we see ourselves, is that customers want to feel special. They want to be able to customize what they want, whether they want a pocket or they don't, whether they want it half sleeve, full sleeve. They don't want to be picking up something just from a hanger and looking like the guy next door. So that's where we come in.
Exactly what I was pointing at. I would love to understand from Lavanya. I think Zivame is an absolute success story. You all started as an online brand from what I believe, and large throughput to about 150 odd stores or more probably. I'd want to understand what kind of differentiation you have seen, particularly in business models shaping up when you move from online to offline markets as well.
See, obviously our journey, we started as e-commerce. See, lot of the reason why a brand chooses a certain channel, whether it's your own platform or whether you decide to sell on a marketplace, you open your own store, or now we are doing a large B2B expansion, is the demand what you kind of see. See, for the brand, the true essence is when more and more people are asking for that product, and there are people reaching out to say that we want to have that product as part of our portfolio. Say a few years back, the distributors or the mom and pop or the trade channel would never want to keep Zivame as a product on there because they would say you're an online brand, aap discount karte ho, whereas the channel actually sells only on MRP or full price, okay? But today, there is a demand for that product. They are coming and asking me, how can you ensure pricing assurance to us so that we will sell Zivame? Whereas about 5 years back, the question was, hum nahi rakhenge. We used to approach B2B. B2B always used to push us back saying, aap discount karte ho, isliye you are an online brand, hum offline nahi rakhenge. But once you have established your product, the demand from the consumer is there. You're established your brand, you are known for your product. They are coming and asking because the consumer is pushing them to have that as an option out there. So it is, so all this D2C, Omni, B2B is all where the brand sees demand, right? So when you actually move from one channel to other channel, one is how do you maintain same product at same pricing. For consumer, same product has to be available at the same pricing. You know, that's the biggest challenge what I think so as a brand we kind of faced. How did we do uniform pricing across all channels? So one is we unified the pricing, but we differentiated the assortment, what was available online, than what is available offline, then what goes to distribution. Distribution is all about depth. Online is all about width. You know, can I have 2,000 options, 5,000 options? Whereas in distribution or in retail, because the space is limited, do you know what is your best seller? And that best seller is available in that store, and you're able to cater that immediately to the consumer, right? But you always have an overlap of few consumers from online going to an offline and saying, hey, I want this product which I saw online, right? You cannot say that I will not service you. At that point, what we said, you order it in the store, we will ensure it's delivered tomorrow at your house, right? So it's about how do you keep that long tail of inventory available to the consumer if she is coming to the store. Or God forbid you came to the store but you didn't have the size. I say that, okay, I will get it delivered to you the very next day. You place the order, I'll get it delivered to you in the next place. So I think so product availability, especially in this category, I think so all the apparel follows unisizing like small, medium, large, XL. I think so lingerie as a category is actually multi-sizing. You know, you have a band and a cup. So you are a 34B, 34C, 36B, 36C, you know, like it's a much more complicated category. If inventory is a challenge for a normal apparel, this is like multi-fold, you know, you don't know where the demand is kind of going to come. How you're able to service that consumer is very important. I think so the mantra is if you can understand consumer, her needs, and while it's the most difficult on what is she going to ask for, but if you have some amount of data, and being a digital first company, I think so one thing which we are good at is we have a lot of data and we do a lot of data insights based on that, what size sells good in a certain location, and India is again a land of many countries. So what sells in South need not be the same size what you sell on North, but how do you use those data insights to ensure that correct inventory is available in correct places are the kind of stuff which we have solved as you know, part of the Zivame growth story.
Lovely, thank you for the insights. Sahil, I particularly want to know from you, what kind of acquisition strategy do you hold in sensitive categories such as sanitary pads, etc., or baby diapers, from what I believe? Is it opinion-led by doctors? Is it through brand marketing? What kind of acquisition strategy do you expect? And what kind of retention strategy do you expect in a similar market? And what has the experience been so far over there?
So we're an FMCG company, and in FMCG we say, "Jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai." Right? To very desi, yeah, yahi chalta hai. So for us, see, 85 or 82% of FMCG, which is chai, sabun, shampoo, etc., is bought in a house from the general trade store. And 20 years ago, it was 100%, and then modern trade came, then marketplaces came, and now Q-commerce come. But we started as an offline company because the fundamental thesis is 8 out of 10 women in India are not happy with the sanitary pad. Right? This is qualified research we did. So we said, how can we change this? Let's get a better product out there. So Pari exists because there is a problem and we want to solve that problem. There are two problems. One is the users are not happy with their pads, and the other is a large blue ocean available where large number of users are not accessing that. So we started with finding our product market fit in general trade, which is kiranas, which is still about 80 to 85% of India, right? So including urban, tier 1, tier 2. So we've actually built product market fit there, and gully, house, you know, that's the idea. So we are today in 250,000 stores. With that product market fit, and you've crossed that hurdle, we've then gone to e-commerce and now on Q-commerce, because we've got a kick-ass product that we know gives repeat, you know, month on month, year on year, and with that we are going to hit that. So to answer your question, yes, we first find it in the streets, in the homes, each home, by actually selling to each shopkeeper, by selling to each lady customer who buys it month on month, and that's how. Of course, we use consumer research, we use tools, we love e-commerce and Q-com channels because they allow us to play with something and launch it very quickly. And so agility matters, and that's what our thesis always is. We're the underdog, right? I'm 10% of the other multinational brand size, but so we always have to be better. Our product, Pari, always has to be a better product. So that's the underlying thesis.
Lovely, thank you, thank you. And I think from Shankar, I definitely want to understand Plum has had a large journey, right? 10 years is a substantial amount of time. You all have typically seen D2C at birth stage to it now at an evolution-based stage wherein we've had some experiences with some brands which have focused on unilateral approaches. What is your take as to how would you rate a complete business in terms of, I would say, a personal care product, right? Do you believe it is equally important to be available offline, or is it still, I would say, is the D2C fire still burning wherein you could only be online? What is your opinion on that?
Okay. So some of the things that Lavanya said is applicable to us as well. Like, so when we change from channel to channel, we really need to solve the problem of uniform pricing, which is really a make or break when it comes to general trade and the e-commerce, because the discounts in e-commerce today are not like 5%, it's 10, 20, 30%, and which is not sustainable. So that's one big channel for us not to ignore, general trade. So we have to change our products accordingly. So that's something that we also do. And if you ask me, one of the things, omni-channel is said very loosely, but it is very difficult to crack. And especially from a supply chain perspective, it's a nightmare to solve for products, availability, etc. So one of the things that we recently learned is how quick commerce grew, and it really caught us by surprise. So when you think about quick commerce, we are a beauty brand. So when a consumer goes to the quick commerce platform, the decision of purchase is already made. So she's not going to wait for my brand to be available. She will go and order the next brand because the decision is made in minutes. And if the products are not available, she will not go down and walk to the opposite Kirana store and buy it. So there, the availability plays a major role. So we really partnered with the quick commerce companies to understand how their, what is their ways of working, what is their replenishment cycle, what is their dark store to hub replenishment, and what is the PO cycle, etc. So we really went granular to crack that, and we were able to, redo our supply chain layout to solve for that. So that's one thing that we learned. I think that is a learning that I would like to share. It's not easy to, say that e-commerce strategy will work for quick commerce. No, it's totally different. So you need to evolve for quick commerce. And so basically you need to evolve for channel-specific design, be it product or supply chain or discount, everything.
Lovely, thank you. I'd like to shed some more light on the fact with the future of entrepreneurship in India with regards to D2C markets. There have been substantial investments into these categories. However, I feel now investors are definitely getting more selective and cautious about this. If you'd like to share some light with regards to what you see from the investor perspective, if any one of you all would want to take that one. Harshil, you should. You've raised a shit ton of money.
No, so...
Hey, you mean that in a good way or a bad way? You raised a lot of money.
Good way, of course.
No, so I think what's happening is twofold, right? We had a valuation bubble and then we had a funding winter. But at the same time, all the investors have raised a lot of money, so they are sitting on a lot of capital which they need to deploy. But I think they are becoming selective in deployment, but it's obviously changing, right? I think a lot more deals are happening. Valuations are not, as low as they were during the funding winter, and probably a step up is happening. And at the same time, if you see public market, it's at an all-time high. All companies are trading at very high valuation multiples. So as a benchmark also, I expect more activity with startup space in terms of funding, more deals to be announced. And yeah, I think the future looks good.
Abhijit, specific? Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to say that I think regardless of the macro trends, I think the one thing that has come very clear to all investors and at every stage from venture capital all the way till, Series D and E, is the sustainability of the business, not just, obviously from a top line, but from a bottom line perspective. And I think all of us would have, heard about this, when there was a downturn, right, where everything was about profitability. I think what we're seeing today is that there's a good mix between the ability for the business to grow on the top line, but also have a healthy bottom line. And yeah, sure, every single business has its gestation period and does need to focus at different points in their growth phases on top line versus bottom line. But I think the one consistent factor that we are seeing from at least not just our investors, but just all the way around is that does the unit economics work for this business? Is there a very clear path to profitability? And regardless of, I think, how tables might, the waves turn again, and there might be a boom where valuations might multiply, right? Instead of the 3x's and 4x's, you might see 7x's and 8x's, of course, depending on the business. But it's very clear that today investors need to see the ability for the founder and their team to be able to also grow a healthy, sustainable bottom line driven business as well. I think that's something that we have very clearly seen.
So Abhijit, to help budding entrepreneurs in this room and clear out a few doubts with regards to how do you first secure your first check, right? What kind of milestones do you feel as an entrepreneur one should look at when they're looking to secure funding for their new business? If you could shed some light on that.
No, great question. I'll probably add a bit of piece into the previous question as well. Pretty much younger brand among the pool here, right? And much respect with everything that has been built in India. The way I look at it is, first of all, investors' money is not free money. Number two, there's been a very clear understanding in the last decade from a surge of the digital era going up to a phase of a FOMO, then the market reaching a COVID era where everything digital seemed to be timed to a point that everything ballooned, and then entire shift happening towards profitability. What I mean by that entire chain is that one thing has been clear that A, not all businesses are meant to be built a 1,000 crore business or a $1 billion business. That's a more apt number. Number two is that are you building for the Bharat or are you building for the niche, right? And these two categories that I see and both the businesses are amazing. They have the different propositions to solve. And I believe now in many discussions that we do at this stage, it's one clear proposition is there. I see a clear intent and attraction for a lot of brands building for India, going from tier 1 to tier 4 or the deep into the country. Because that's where the value unlock of the real country has happened. Has happened in the past, is happening today, and that's where a lot of value unlock is yet to happen in the country. That's a bit of, in terms of how investors look at it, little experience that I have. Based on answering your question directly, Pranav, what should be my advice? I don't know if I should give an advice, but I'll share my experience per se, and that would help. Is that my first 6 months in the company was bootstrapped. I'm a single founder, founded the entire company ground up by being in the store, making and selling and talking to customers for the first 3 to 6 months. And the first 6 months was completely bootstrapped. Now, idea was simple. Are you trying to do multiple things at the same time, or are you very much focused and clear and doing one thing brilliantly? I'm a big believer of the latter, where your focus is clear, you know what you're doing, build that MVP clearly, make a value proposition right, you have paying customers, you have people who clearly understand what you're trying to bring into the market, and that's the recipe to build something bigger. That's the way I like to solve problems. That's the way UpCoffee has been solving problems. I mean, probably you know UpCoffee from the first outlet of Warsaw, when we're chatting outside. That was the first outlet we launched, and that's how the entire creation of the brand happened. We have 65 outlets, out of which 45 have been built just in the last 4 months. Right? So the first year and a half was extremely, extremely slow. And I think that particular focus is important for an entrepreneur, and that also helps to build a brand, and that also helps investors to understand how clearly focused you are and how you're building the brand block by block. So
Lovely,
not being impatient is the answer. Being patient and being focused is the answer.
Lovely. In fact, I've seen Abhijit a couple of times at his first outlet, and he'd probably talk to every of his consumer, and I think that's an excellent way to start ground up because you understand the nerve of the market a little more from that. Yeah. I'd love to understand from Lavanya as well. Reliance has a substantial stake in Zivame. How do you see legacy companies join hands with D2C startups or evolved startups of that sort, and what kind of muscle do they bring in your opinion?
Um, See, as a D2C brand, when you actually partner with a large corporate like Reliance, you suddenly get access to the ecosystem, which is like largely developed. For us, what worked, it helped us in our retail expansion multifold, right? The muscle power, the kind of retail presence, what they have, we could accelerate our growth much faster. If I would say for us to build the 175 stores what we have today became much more easier. Second is we have now access across all the retail touch points, at least for Reliance, like the Reliance Trends has about 2,000 outlets. We are already present in about 600, 700 outlets. So suddenly the retail expansion, what we could kind of do, it gave us that boost very immediately, which if I had to build it in the older way would have taken time, right? Obviously in a large corporate you do have, you need to know to change your working style. You obviously have a much more defined processes. They have deeper pockets. So in terms of inventory investments to buy that kind of retail expansion or that kind of expansion, what we were talking, those accesses were something which we immediately kind of got, So it depends on what you can go and, like start taking advantages of things what they have already built, is what is the key. And when you actually shake hands or you do that partnership, you already are thinking about how you leverage their strength for your growth, which might not have been your plan, but then you have to quickly learn their ways of working to enable that growth immediately.
Lovely, thank you. Shankar, I want to understand from you the importance of gross margins in a product when you're building out a D2C company. Since you come from the supply chain bit, what do you feel about the importance of gross margins?
I think you asked about what do investors look. So whatever may be the situation, that is one metric that everybody has an eye on.
Most important.
Yeah, most important because it has to cover up for all the expenses. So I think even down the future, whatever is the omni-channel, D2C, offline, whatever, so gross margin plays an important role. And everybody across the organization, every function contributes to that. So I think it is very important for any business.
I'll add one thing to gross margin, okay? While most of the businesses talk about gross margin, like what is the percentage you make revenue minus costs, okay? When you scale, you need to understand what is the rupee gross margin you're making. Okay, let me explain rupee gross margin. You've already, from your existing businesses, you make an X percentage, say you make 60%, okay? But when you do expansion, the expansion will not come at the same 60%, but if you're able to do expansion at say a 30% gross margin also, you should kind of take, because you cannot expect expansion to come at the same thing. Lot of times the finance guys, I was an earlier finance person, so I can kind of talk about it. It's very important for businesses to understand that as long as you are able to generate rupee gross margin, everything what you sell, you are able to create a money back into the system. Once you have got your unit economics right, is the only way to scale. So one is gross margin. You need to track gross margin till you reach profitability. After that, to scale, you need to start looking at rupee gross margin.
That's a lovely insight.
Contribution margin.
Sahil, in your opinion, what would it take for a brand from India to break out to the global stage?
Global, you said?
Global stage. What do we need to do, right, to create that, I would not say $1 billion, but a substantial sized brand from India for the world?
Oh, so it's a bit of a bummer, but I actually have no global aspirations. Sorry, but I gave up my green card and I've come back here to set up a plant in Uttar Pradesh. The wrong question to the wrong guy.
We have a case of reverse flipping out there.
हाँ मैं green card छोड़ के आया हूँ. But so look, I'll give you my answer, right? Our thesis is 70% women don't use a product, and the 30% that do use a very poor quality product. So the entire thesis for Pari is India में बेचना है, right? मुझे Bandra में बेचना, मुझे कोरमंगला में बेचना है. This is where we want to sell. India itself is a massive opportunity. So from a business perspective, and I'll try to answer 2-3 questions that you asked. What do investors look for? What should you? People, I'd rather catch one rabbit at a time, and that rabbit is Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. The first thing I look at every morning is how did UP do? And then I look at Bihar, and that because yeah, 30 crore लोग उधर बैठे हैं, उसके बगल में 20 crore है. Why do you want to go to Singapore, Dubai? I mean, others may disagree with me on this, but in my business, that's what we look at. So, idhar becho na. So, by the way, I've learned this the hard way because we did launch an export vertical and we took those expensive flights to Dubai because it was the thing to do, and Lulu mein jana hai, Carrefour mein jana hai. And we spent a lot of money doing that, and the ROI was small. That money would have been better spent getting a great product market fit over here and doing a much better job and owning that. I'd rather own one state of India than be 5 countries or whatever and be all over the place. Unit economics will come from doing one thing very well.
That's a lovely insight. I think focused on creating deeper penetration in the market. You're penetrating at the point of time. In fact,
inch
rather than
wide,
spreading
mile
out your
deep,
budgets around.
rather than mile wide, inch deep. Correct.
I think we have, a bunch of people who have great experience in their respective businesses, varied industries, and I'd want to use the next 3 minutes in asking them to answer a few questions that the audience may have, if we can do that. Yeah, any of you all, if you want to ask a few questions, yeah?
Two quick questions. One, I want to ask about the amount of capital outlay that you would require. We all have seen D2C scales pretty quickly because of the cash flow that's required. You typically get your CODs in 10 days and your prepaid flows in after 48 hours. But to build a retail distribution channel, you have to build that channel up, the inventory needs to be paid up front, and then the margin needs to be given across different channels, which is then paid back in 90 days. But for quick commerce, it's a whole different story altogether because each dark store needs to be fulfilled in its own gambit. And in a city, typically you will have like a Bombay or a Swiggy would have ABC categories of dark stores. So the capital outlay that is there for a retail versus a quick commerce, imagining to build a business from that in its inception before a product market fit, I don't think, is fungible or can be built that up. That's one. And two, second question is your thoughts on franchise operated, franchise owned, and company owned and franchise operated. Thoughts on both too.
I'll take the retail part. So as a heavy offline company, we don't give credit to anybody. So you alluded to 90 days. I sleep at night peacefully knowing nobody knows me money. Other than Amazon, Flipkart, and the QCom guys where I don't have a choice, right? But even there, we don't work on SOR models. We work on PO models, and we check the agreements properly so that we know when we are going to get paid. And some people tell me, why are you being so stubborn about this? But the thing is, it's a concept called skin in the game. If my stock is lying at a retail outlet and he hasn't paid for it, he has no incentive कि यार इसको निकालना है मुझे. वो कोने में पड़ा रहता है. So, and if you call him twice for money, he'll say, साहब बिकता नहीं है, लेके जाओ वापस. So I would not encourage you, and that's not the right feedback for your product, right? So, because it's not his headache. Now, when he or she has paid for that stock, believe me, he or she will say beautiful things about your product, which hopefully are true, but that's called skin in the game. So, I would encourage you to work harder to ensure that the person buys from you in full cash or cash on delivery. Nahi to mat do. At least in our category, this is what we do.
Harshal, what do you feel about the difference between company-operated and franchise-based?
Again, it really depends on what is the purpose that you're trying to solve, and I'll tell you my experience. we really wanted to ensure that if a customer comes to a store, they get a very uniform experience across all the stores that we have. And hence we decided to go with a company-owned, company-operated model. Also because we had enough capital and the unit economics were very, very promising. But it really depends on your objective in terms of how much capital you have. If experience is a very big factor in terms of what you're looking at, in terms of operational challenges that you have to operate multiple stores, if you have the right team for that. So I think there are a lot of variables that go into deciding the right distribution strategy. And both of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. So it really depends on what are your priorities.
Lovely. I think it's been a lovely afternoon if you'd like to emphasize.
So I have worked on both models, which is franchisee owned and then your company owned, company operated stores. I think so the decision to actually do a franchisee model is your processes when it comes to your brand sorted. Okay, because for the consumer there should be no differentiation if it is your own store or it's a franchisee operated store. Okay, if the brand has its processes streamlined when it comes to the VM, to the assortment, how will be the consumer experience, the store staff, all that if it is sorted, there is only so much amount a company will have to do a capital outlay of opening the stores, okay? What typically a brand will do is the main markets or the top 8 cities or top 10 cities is something where I might do a company owned, company operated, and say the other markets I'm open to do franchisee. But do only franchisee when your processes and how you want the brand to be experienced is really sorted. Before that, if just for the capital outlay you're not able to do and you start opening franchisee outlets, the brand experience will take a hit and thereby it will start impacting your own COCO stores. So I would say the tip off for you to do franchisee or not franchisee, one is obviously capital outlay, what you have in hand, but whether you are sorted as a brand to give that to another person to run it and control it is the key for you to look at franchisee operations. I hope that answers your question.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you. I think it's been a wonderful afternoon. We're a little short of time, and I thank everyone for being such a patient audience, and thank you to all the panelists. I think we've definitely given out some good insights for all the budding entrepreneurs, and I hope this was a good session. Yep, thank you.